Hi, how are ya? This is Big Sister's Sesh with me, Kayla G. I will never do that again, I promise. Today we are talking about when the bees will start turning to honey, which means basically how to just kind of keep going on, how to keep hope through the bad stuff that's going on in your life because that's what I wanted to talk about, and all I ever talk about is boys and dating, and I this is the only other topic that I feel I can ramble on about for a good 20-30 minutes. So here we are. Live it, love it. Maybelline. What? Anyway. Now what I mean by the bees, I'm sure it's pretty self-explanatory, but I got it from this book. I'm pretty sure if I still fuck with this quote in another week or two, I'm gonna get it tattooed on me. But it's a book called Writers and Lovers by Lily King. She is the writer of Euphoria. Um, and spoiler alert, basically the whole book is like men being shit, her life being absolutely insane, like bad shit after bad shit after bad shit, and just how to deal with all of that. And at the end of the book, whoop, and at the end of the book, she says the bees are turning to honey because things finally start going right for her. And that line just made me cry. It hit me at such a good point of my life. It just, when, because my bees have just started turning to honey as well. As I've spoken about, I lost a job. I just got out of a terrible relationship. Dating has been awful. It's hard to pay the bills right now. I just got a job. Things are looking up for me. So, yeehaw. I don't know. That line just for whatever reason was really hitting that day. But the bees are basically all of the bad stuff in your life. All the noise, all the chaos, all the shit that's running through your head all the time, all the things that are causing you stress and anxiety and all that stuff. The reason I want to talk about this today is as somebody who feels like I might be coming out of this on the other side. Um, Fingers crossed. I mean, I know there will always be good and bad times, but after a substantial amount of time in a low period, I feel like things are turning up. So I just wanted to put out some positivity and things that I did through those really hard times to maybe help you be able to get through them, and just know that there's gold at the end of the rainbow. So first of all, when you're going through these hard times, if you're someone like me, I'm very much a creature of habit, and when my routine gets disrupted in any kind of way, I kind of lose my shit. And learning to let go of it because I simply had to out of necessity was something that I had to learn very quickly. I had to work two jobs. One of them started at 7 a.m., and one of them was a restaurant job that ended pretty late at night. And having compassion for myself for not being able to cook the meals I necessarily should have, or go to the gym, or, miss something because I was sleeping in because I was exhausted. I bullied myself for doing that, especially when it came to missing the gym because I am a little nutso with that stuff. But I just had so much guilt and shame around not doing, and not even just that, like doing things extracurricular wise, such as playing music or reading or um, whatever things that I enjoyed. I just wasn't doing because I was so exhausted, and I needed to keep the bills paid, and so those things kind of had to take a back seat. For a long time, I shamed myself about that, and then one day I was kind of just I had an aha moment and was like, why am I am doing what I need to do to keep my bills paid, to literally support myself. Why am I giving myself such a hard time about this other shit? Like, I was doing what was necessary. I can get back to those things. I knew that that grind wasn't going to be forever. And I decided then and there to start showing myself compassion. So instead of shaming myself for having a lazy day in bed because I had worked two jobs for 3 or 4 days in a row. I let myself have that lazy day without guilt, and I ordered Uber Eats because I deserved it. Because I deserved it. And you do too. So, the first kind of note that I would say is to absolutely, if you are that person who is bullying yourself for not getting everything else done on your to do list, show yourself some compassion. If you can afford to Uber Eats yourself something once in a while instead of beat yourself up over not meal prepping or cooking for yourself something healthier or whatever, like, time is a luxury that we don't always have, and Uber Eats saves you a lot of time. Like, instead of cooking a meal which can take 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, if you're meal prepping for a week, it can take up to 2 or 3 hours, at least the way I do it. And if you can save yourself that time by Uber eating a meal or two, or Uber or whatever, Instacarting your groceries, if you can afford that luxury, do it. The time is worth it. Your rest is also important. And even if you're not resting, even if you want to use that time to do something like your extracurricular or just see a friend that you haven't seen in forever because you're grinding. Whatever your kind of bees may be, find a way to show yourself some compassion during that rough time. The next point I'd like to make is you don't Joe Rogan always says this. He says the worst thing you've ever been through is the worst thing you've ever been through, which means like you know what it means. It's the bottom. Like this if this is your Mount Everest, this is your Mount Everest. You don't need to be like, "Oh, but there's starving kids in Africa." It doesn't matter. It's a measure of what you've been through in life, and that's going to feel really big. It doesn't matter if someone else has been through something really worse, or it doesn't matter if someone's been through something significantly worse or whatever. Not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't undermine what you're going through. Now, I'm not saying, absolutely baby yourself and like let yourself sob and be a wreck, but again, in the same vein of what I just said, show yourself some compassion. If you're going through a really hard time, don't don't underestimate it and don't devalue your situation or yourself just because you think someone else has had it worse. It doesn't matter. Again, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Let yourself feel those things and use them as fuel in the future, but don't belittle yourself. Another point is to ask for help. I wish I did it sooner because don't cry because I was in a really, really bad relationship for 3 years. It was emotionally and physically abusive, like real shit. And I pretty much didn't tell anybody up until the last year. And I still like sugarcoated it a lot. And I didn't ask for help and I thought I could make it through on my own and I simply could not and I eventually got out of it, but I had so much work to do because of not like I anyway. So tell people what you're going through, ask for help. And then even when I got out of that relationship, when I moved here without knowing a single I knew one person who lived 3 hours away. Um and that was it. Like that's the only and I like, knew them. They weren't like we weren't like this yet. Now we are like this. But I moved here and I was just struggling with hyper independence. One, from my childhood, I've always been someone who has tried to be hyper independent. I want to take care of myself. I don't want any no man. I don't want to depend on anybody. I don't ask for help. I don't ask for blah, 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 blah. And now I am in such a place where I literally can't not ask for help. I literally need help all the time. Please help me, please. And I've gotten so much more comfortable. It's rough the first couple times, but once you establish that relationship with people in your life that you know you can trust and they will come through for you, asking for help is like a breath of fucking fresh air, especially in this point of life where shit is so much more chaotic. I was a lot more hyper independent in college, and at that time, I could afford to be like, I wasn't like, yeah, I was going through shit, but I wasn't going through any like real shit. I did whatever I needed to do and like whatever. Wow, I'm using like whatever so much. I sound illiterate, but what I'm saying is ask for help. it is a blessing when you can have those people in your life that you can depend on. And even if they don't always come through, I'm proud of you for asking, and don't give up on people just because one or two people have disappointed you. And if you're someone who is super hyper independent or super hyper independent, if you are someone who is incredibly hyper independent and this is going to be something hard for you, start with the people that you trust the very most, that you know won't fuck it up. So you can establish that good. Don't ask for like loosey goosey to do a favor for you. Ask for somebody you know will pull through, or most likely will pull through, because if you're hyper independent, you're like, I don't know if anybody will pull through. However, you know what I'm saying. Uh, and the last little thing I'd like to say is I would I'm a big proponent of journaling. I'm a big proponent of journaling. I'm not the best at it. I go through period like months of writing absolutely nothing, and then like a couple weeks of writing every other day or every couple days, and then a month, or like I'm not good at journaling. But the times that I do, I'm happy that I have. And for this last year, I've been a little bit better about journaling. And one of the benefits of journaling is being able to go back and see where you started or where you've been, and just see the progress, because I'll use my own life as an example. The last year and some change, I got out of an abusive relationship. I moved in with a friend who like took care of me for a month, and then I moved to where I am now. And then I, had zero friends, didn't have a job at that time, had to borrow a significant amount of money. So I was in a lot of debt. Um, Picked out an apartment that was way too expensive for me, but I'm really happy I have it now. But was over obese. I was obese. Like I was in the first class of obesity. My health was not good. My skin was breaking out. My hair was falling out. I was super inflamed just because I had been living in such a toxic situation. I had been using food and alcohol, and like my body was just like, ugh! But yeah. And when I moved here, I was like, it can only get better, bro. And it did for a little bit, but then it went even worse. It got even worse. And so, like, going through every month and basically writing like all the shit that was happening to me. Like, oh my God, I moved here and I have no friends. Oh my God, I moved here and I don't have a job. Oh my God, I have to take out a loan. Oh my God, I blah, 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 blah. And now looking back and seeing the downward decline, but then also seeing that upward incline has just been like, I actually have done so much, and it doesn't feel like I've done anything this last year. It feels like I've done nothing. But being able to go back and see, like, bitch, you've lost 25 pounds. You've made an amazing support system for yourself. Yeah, you're broke still. You're broke. And you don't have a job right now. It starts in a month, but like seeing, okay, seeing that I have, you know, all of those positive little things that have started to happen is such a relief that I'm not a complete failure. And I don't know, just having that written down for you to reflect on once things do start going right is really helpful. And it's also just a reminder that you've overcome all of those things and you can get through it again if you have to. And now you have all of these lessons from life, and ways that you can do things better in the future and help others when they're going through something similar. Oh, yeah. In that same vein of writing all those things down, so when I was going through this big transition in my life, I, I had my big escape from a 3-year terribly abusive relationship. And I figured things can only get better. And they didn't get better, which was like, in your brain, you think, oh, I'm escaping an abusive relationship. Like, what could be worse? But there's so much damage control. And then I decided to move myself and isolate myself, which in the grand scheme of things ended up to be really great. But at the time, I was like, wait, first I was like, woo, and then I got here and was like, oh, I'm alone. Um, but something I've noticed as I get older is that like goals and milestones and things you want to achieve take a lot longer. When we, you know, I'm 26 right now, and so like graduating from high school to college and all the milestones in between that, getting your first car, whatever you did successfully as a child, whatever, getting your first job out of college, all of those things are kind like pretty close together. All those milestones, they take, I don't know, less time, and they're more palpable, and they're more like you can see them more clearly. At least I could. And now as a adult, those milestones and those goals take much longer to achieve and a lot more work, and there's just so much more time in between. And as I was saying, I've only been here for a year and I expected to achieve so much more. And I had to put myself in check a couple months ago because, I mean, one, I have overcome a lot, but my expectations were like way too high, like unrealistically high. Not like shoot for the moon, like, like people would argue you want to have really high hopes for your goals and yourself, but not to the point where it's so unrealistic that you're consistently going to fail. You want something that is out of reach but still in reach, not something that's just like in another universe. What I was expecting for myself was in another universe, to expect myself to do the things that I wanted for in a year after leaving such a toxic relationship and having to do all that damage control and rebuild an entire life here was insane. So check your goals, see if they're actually realistic, go back and see what you've actually overcome this last year. And first of all, take note and be proud of yourself. And secondly, revamp your goals, give yourself more time, be fucking for real with yourself. Um, period. Because then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment and consistently feeling like a failure. And those are also things that come with life. It's not your fault for maybe having unrealistic goals, because I thought they were real. I was like, that's doable. That's fine at the beginning of this year. Then halfway through, I said, I'm worse off than when I made these goals for myself. What the fuck? And just life happens, and be fucking real. Be real with yourself. Another point I'd like to make is to not identify with the shit that you've been through. Don't let that become a part of your identity. Let it be a lesson learned, and let it be something you can take something from, but do not make it a part of you. Don't let I am not letting an abusive relationship define me, but I am taking every single one of those lessons and putting it like it is ingrained in me looking for a future partner. I know exactly what I want and what I'm looking for, but I'm not like going forth with this connotation about men, and or about myself. Don't let all of the shit that you've been through define you, because you are not your traumas, you are not all of the terrible shit that's happened to you or all of your failures. You are how you come back from that shit. That's a fucking that was poetic or something. But basically when you start identifying with that shit, like that is the low, this is so woo woo, but that is a low vibration that you are going to give off and attract. You want to be at that high frequency. You want to be at that positive energy, high frequency level bullshit. You don't want to be down here giving off those I'm a victim, I'm traumatized, I've been through shit vibes. You want to give off that strong, powerful, I've been through shit, I know shit from it, I'm working with it vibes. The very last point I will make is, I know I said lastly like 10 times ago, but the very last thing I will say is, and I've said this before, you can't fuck up what's meant for you. So all of the things that might be going bad for you, I know this is cliche as shit, but like God or the universe or whoever's up there is waiting, like you want this, but this is what you need, and it's coming. It's coming. So just hold on. Like you might think you want that job, you might think you want that friend, you might think you want that relationship. You might think you want that house. Whatever it is, you might think you want it, but it could be the universe protecting you and saving you for something even better that's just going to take a little bit more time to manifest. So just hold on to that. If you're devastated by losing a job or devastated by whatever, not like losing a relationship, hold on for dear life. You cannot mess up what's not meant for you. You cannot mess up what is meant for you. um and that's the tea. A few books to recommend if you could use a little je ne sais quoi in your life, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling, I don't even know what je ne sais quoi means, so like whatever, just you know what it meant there. If you need a little something something to pick you up, to guide you, to make you feel something during this time, I would definitely recommend the book Writers and Lovers, which is what inspired me to make this episode. Um, that is just a book about trials and tribulations and real life shit. And then, like, it's literally only down, only down. And then the last, like, eighth of the book is her getting her shit back in order. And it's like, oh yes, there is, like, even for people like this, and even for or even for inner, even in conditions like this, shit will get better. So that was the very first book, Writers and Lovers by Lily King. Such a good book. Another book would be Viola Davis's memoir, Finding Me. Holy shit, I had no idea. I had no idea what that woman has been through. Is just, I don't want to insult her by putting words on it, because I simply cannot verbalize how fucking insane it is that she is where she is today. I mean, she grinded hard as hell, so it's not insane. She did the damn thing. She did everything she needed to do. But like, same thing. Like, down, 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 only down. And then like the last little bit is like, oh, like this is how, like, there is hope. There is, like, these are how all of the downs make the ups worth it, basically. Another book, which is kind of going to sound random, but the reason I include it is because I think a lot of people our age are financially kind of like, what? The only reason I kind of have my finances in order is because my dad is a financial advisor. Like, and he's been telling me to invest since I was like, and like save since I was a fucking baby. But I would read, um, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Who is that by? By Ramit Sethi. It's like so basic. It's just the basics that we all kind of pretend to know, and it helps so much to just put it in layman's terms. Like, which credit cards you should open to maximize value, and how much of your money should be going towards rent, and how much of your money should be going towards life, and how much of your money should you be saving. It's all these things that we have a general idea of, but this has helped me. It's like, and it's literally us, like, it's a program. Calls it a program, and you do all the assignments. If you are someone who is maybe down right now, if all your B's are financial, I would read this book. It's funny. First of all, he makes like financial security and financial literacy hilarious. He's sassy and a king, and I love the book. It's so good. It will help you get your finances in order. Do it. Do it. If your B's are stemming from childhood trauma or childhood issues, or just like anything with parents, if you're still struggling in that respect, or just if you're struggling from any problems from your childhood, the book Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I hate that I can't remember the author, and I don't own that book. I got it from the library. But there's only one book titled that, I promise you. It's pretty oddly specific. That book helped me isolate. It's that book helped put into words what I have been feeling my entire life. Things that I did not understand were common concepts in the human psyche. I did not realize other people were going through it. And when you read it, it seems so obvious. You're like, oh, but of course. But I don't know. I did not conceptualize basically walks you through every like a traumatic kind of first of all, first of all, trauma is usually I think people usually think of like some like a really traumatic event like sexual assault or like a terrible car accident or a really sudden death, things like that. Trauma can be so much more than that. It can be so much smaller than that. But it's the small consistent traumas of like being neglected as a child and having emotionally unintelligent parents. And it's not their fault. They were also children and they were probably emotionally neglected. But that the generation of parents who raised people my age and the like, so many of them were just they're just not like super emotionally aware. And it doesn't make it right because it's everybody's job to heal. However, going reading this book and just realizing like, okay, I'm not fucking crazy. Like I when I think back, I say to myself, I says, self, you didn't have like any crazy traumatic relate like you didn't have any traumatic event. Why are you this way? And then I'm like, but actually it's like the hundreds of little teeny things that happened that made me like made me have the emotional issues I do. So if you're dealing with, any kind of personal issue like anxiety or like attachment issues or whatever, literally anything. If you have, honestly, everybody should read this book. If you're around my age, I would read this book. Anybody should read this book. Anyone. It helps conceptualize all the things that make you who you are and like why you are the way you are. And it just goes through every single circumstance of what your parent might have done and how it could affect you. And then it has journaling prompts, and it helps you. I can't even put into words how much that book has helped me navigate my relationships with myself, with my parents, and with relationships, and like being able to see where my shit comes out and just being like, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to repeat the cycle. No, no, no. That has helped me quiet many bees. But most importantly, I would say if you have a tumultuous relationship with your parents, it helps you navigate expectations with them and meet them where you can meet them where they can be met emotionally. Wow. I feel like I just talked a lot, like a mile a minute. Ooh, my hands are. What is that? What? I feel like I just talked a lot, but I hope you gathered some useful information. I hope you read some of those. All of those books are those are my top books. I would highly recommend any of them for any reason at all. But have a beautiful, lovely, fabulous, amazing day. Good God. Have a beautiful, fabulous, amazing, wonderful day. I hope you have a lovely day. I just keep saying that. Anyway, peace and blessings. Have a fabulous day. This has been a Big Sister Sesh with me, Kayla. I hope you have. Why am I saying that so much? Bye. Bye, 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 bye.